The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Here we go with the Wrestling is Real podcast, episode 650. Here I'm King of Podcasts. Thanks for being here with me, as always. Now, let's get into it. We're going to talk about tonight a real state of what has happened with WWE since what they really made as decisions going into SummerSlam and beyond, and where things are going with the company when it comes to a lot of changes being made. We know how they changed NXT. We know about the releases. We know about all the consolidation they did with the digital division and their direction going forward. Obviously, if you feel like if Nick Khan is taking controls here, or if there are some other entities that are now taking over where the company is in direction, it's not running like an entertainment. It's not running like a wrestling company anymore. We know that. It's a sports entertainment company. It's a sports brand. And it's more about trying to make sure that the brand stays ahead of the wrestlers. The stars are going to encompass what the brand's going to be. So they're not necessarily loaded with a lot of big headline stars. And with that, they need to build that marquee up of stars that they haven't had. Which we know they have made changes where the NXT obviously is going to build the future again, unlike where it was before. It's still a rebuilding process, whether you like it or not. And it's being done without the IWC anymore. Not much influence from the internet wrestling community. They are truly the vocal minority. They can bitch, moan, and complain all they want. They can make valid comments as well, but they're going to be held on deaf ears by WWE themselves because they're not worried about it. They're staying on course of what they want to do post-Thunderdome era. Now, they might have done what they had to do to make sure to keep some audience watching during the Thunderdome era, but they obviously had a different direction to go after they got out of the Thunderdome. When they got back to touring, they had a plan. Now, we could try to talk about how they've done in terms of ratings. We could try to talk as well in terms of what they've done in terms of ticket sales and the gate and how they've been selling out or not selling out stadiums or crowds. The TV show is in a big problem. We know that part. And they have to figure out a way to get the TV product. The weekly TV product has to be much more consistent. They can't just make it good enough just to get a couple of clips on the YouTube and make it look good, or enough to go ahead and produce a post-production piece to, fix all the problems and then work it out better. They have to do something more with the TV product. Raw and SmackDown, of course, better than Raw. They have to fix some things. And some of the very boring, predictable, and lazy booking they've been doing, it's just not going to cut it. We have Survivor Series. You would think that would be a significant pay-per-view to talk about, but they haven't planned anything yet. Nothing's been announced. They haven't even talked about the show yet. And it's coming up on the 21st of November. 18 days. They haven't talked a thing about it. And so where are they going to go with it? When are they going to decide to go and start? Is it going to be Raw and SmackDown against each other? Where are they going? Because what they've been doing right now on the TV side is they are building new feuds. That's what they've been doing. Crown Jewel was kind of like an offsetting of feuds and decided to go with a couple different directions. So you had Goldberg and Bobby Lashley. That feud ended. Edge and Seth Rollins. That feud ended. At the moment, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar has been roadblocked because they did the same angle they did in 2016 where Brock Lesnar has been suspended. So basically taking time off until, I don't know, when he comes back for the Rumble, but probably not until next year. And so who do they have in the meantime? Of course, you would think that in past years, the Raw versus SmackDown deal would be coming up for Survivor Series. So then you would imagine everybody's fantasy booking, well, it would have to be the champions all together facing each other. So you'd have to have Big E and Roman Reigns. You'd have to have Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. That's among the other things. You would have to think that those matches were going to happen, and then a couple of building up of 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches. That's been what we've expected. We didn't know if anybody else was going to show up for New York, but the New York show is significant. Barclays Center is a significant arena, and they have nothing planned for it yet. Now, I don't know how well they've done in terms of selling tickets for it, but they're not concerned about it because they know that the name of Survivor Series is supposed to draw some people to the dance. I don't know who, and I don't know how much. I'm looking back at the last month or so of WrestleTix on Twitter, which hasn't shown anything in terms of how many tickets have been sold for Survivor Series coming up. We don't know what that is yet. So we have to wait on that. Otherwise, we can look at what they've been doing in terms of what they've been able to sell for other shows, say in the UK or here in the States, but not much more of that do we have any information on. Okay, Dunkin' Donuts Center, Providence, Rhode Island, they did sell that out this past Monday night for Raw, more or less. So it was all set to go for that. And there's some shows they didn't have. We know that show in San Francisco did not get more than 4,000 people in the stands for that show. So it's been hit or miss for WWE. AEW's been a bit better. They've been getting more towards capacity than others. In terms of the ratings, well, the ratings have not done well when you're considering... you can't say much about SmackDown so much because they have had to deal with the World Series, but the World Series is ended, the Braves have won it, and the shows will get back to normal. So now Dynamite's back in its normal slot, SmackDown's back in its normal slot, and they're back to where they are now, where they are expected to be. In terms of the ratings, we know that Raw has been struggling still. If you just look at what they've done post SummerSlam, right before Monday Night Football, we're able to pull 1.9 and 1.8 million viewers, and then football has just been destroying it. There's just been no chance, and it continues to go lower. At the moment, they did pull 1.6 million viewers, but then it dropped back down towards 1.6. That's about the best they're going to get of what they expect. Meanwhile, SmackDown, you can't say much about it because they'll get back over 2 million viewers again soon enough. Once they get themselves off of FS1, it'll be much better off for them. And as for NXT, staying above the 600,000 mark, and that's what you can expect. They made the change on NXT, and there's been enough interest, as there was in the original program, the Black and Gold, to keep people watching. And there you go. So they made the successful switch of NXT. And they're maintaining the audience they have. Who knows if they could build that audience to something bigger than what they have right there. And as for the Raw and SmackDown ratings, they're somewhat stable. SmackDown obviously better. With a lot of bit of promotion behind Fox, especially with a Friday night primetime slot. And now you got November sweeps where you have to imagine for Fox, SmackDown is being pressured. They're going to have to pull some big shows in November, at least between now and, say, the next 3 weeks. So this week, next week, and leading up to Survivor Series, they have to build strong. And then by the Survivor Series, the sweeps period will be over, where the networks will be able to determine how much they could charge advertisers going forward, what the rates are. So they need this Friday night show on Fox to do very well, not only beat 2 million viewers like they normally have, but they need to go and surpass. They definitely need to go ahead and get that show to crank up to 2.3 to 2.5 million viewers on the first run, if they can. That's what needs to happen for them right there. And, the World Series doesn't help much, but now they're back on their slot. They have to build strong toward Survivor Series, but they have nothing really planned. They haven't done anything about it. When you look at across the board, we can go and talk about what they've been doing in terms of the storylines and what they've been working on. Everybody wants to talk about New Era. We know it's bullshit. Why even bring it up? Why even go and act, blind to the fact that they would go and say this? Why are we going to be tone deaf about that? They keep saying this to us every year. People buy into it. It's one of those things where we always talk about sports teams. If you have a team that constantly loses, we always hear this the cliche drinking the Kool-Aid. And there have been many loyal WWE fans that will drink that red and black Kool-Aid. Tastes good, and then it gets sour. And it doesn't feel good because then they put themselves behind in the false hope that the brands are going to get better and that wrestling's going to get better. It's a sports analogy going time after time. Normally does. So what have they done? Well, We had a Halloween episode of SmackDown, and they threw Shotzi Blackheart as it was, back out there with a shot at Charlotte Flair, instant title match, or an instant championship contenders match. That's the first thing that goes wrong. Even if it is Shotzi that they might not care about, if it's just a spike, an interest right there right off the top, my thing is, we already know that WWE cannot allow themselves to book something and then make people wait for the next week. They can't do it. They're incapable of doing that. They're incapable of giving really glorified squash matches. They're incapable of making people wait for the payoff. You can't drag people along with a carrot anymore because they really feel like this crowd is unable to do that. But the truth is, they need to have suspense in their storylines. They need to have suspense in their feuds. Instant gratification doesn't work anymore. It might have done that before. That's how you had the Attitude Era. Well, if we're changing things, we need to change instant gratification. It's the opposite of what AEW does because they make you wait a week. They make you wait a couple of weeks. They make you wait a while on certain feuds. And some people complain about that because they're adjusted to where they were in the 90s, the Monday Night Wars, because it was instant gratification. It was, you get fed quick. It's like fast food. You're getting fed fast food. And it kind of tastes good. It's familiar, but it doesn't really fill. It doesn't really do you any good. And you don't feel good after that. Maybe that's what happens. But people just continue to just accept it. And for what? What good does this do? To continue to go this route and say, okay, we're going to continue to go ahead and have Insta feuds, championship contender matches, to go ahead and make somebody feel worthy to earn a title shot. They don't even need that. It's just an open challenge. Speaking of open challenge, Drew McIntyre, open challenge to create a feud. It's lazy. It's like as if there's only a couple different ways to start a feud, if ever. Put a tag team together and then break them up. Open challenge. Or whatever else you might want to do. Because it's just very lazy and simple. Now, is it so much for the global audience so they can really keep easy to keep along? To stay along and follow along with what's going on? Maybe. But I don't understand why the company wants to go and feel like they need to play to the lowest common denominator and really play stupid. The other thing, too, is constantly have to go ahead and repeat and remind people of what's going on. The packages sometimes, they're monotonous. We kind of know what happened last week. Or you are playing to the stupidity of your audience because you think they're stupid. They can't remember what happened last week. Or they haven't cared. Because, with the lazy work that's being done, the production packages make things look good. But they have to do that because they can't make what's going on in the ring when they shoot it right on hand. They can't make that look good. So they have to correct it after the fact through post-production because they can do that. But when do you have something that really just stands out so much the next week and you're still talking about it? They all talk about must-see TV, right? Well, we don't have that now. I mean, it's hard enough to go and do that, when it's not live sports, when it's not live news, when it's not other things. But to make this show, it's episodic. Why does it matter? I mean, they're building as it is episodic. There's supposed to be some kind of cliffhanger, you would think, that would lead up to the next show. Now, I'm probably being spoiled here. And listen, don't bash me because I'm watching old TV shows. But I've been watching Dallas, the original drama Dallas from 1978 to 1991. 357 episodes done to that show. Yes, you might have heard the episode of Who Shot JR. Right now, I'm on season 3, somewhere, episode 16, something like that. So I'm leading up to the cliffhanger of Who Shot JR. I'm almost there. I'm like a few episodes away. Now, what we got to say about this is the fact that that show did have storylines intertwined in certain things, and you would come back to something, and they would kind of make a point to go ahead and feed you back in if you had just, it's been a week since you watched. You didn't even have the convenience of being able to go ahead and tape a show at that time. Maybe not everybody had nobody had VCRs really that much. Very rare. So to have that chance to go in on demand, go back to that show, watch it again, or watch it right before you watch the next episode, and to keep up, a show like Dallas would go ahead and continue to bring the story further, and they would kind of give you a little bit of the nugget as to what was happening the week before, and they would follow up with continuity. It doesn't happen here, but Dallas did that. And they constantly gave you cliffhangers. They constantly gave you things to have to go back and watch what happened. And real bad versus good. That's what that show was all about. But nobody does that kind of programming at all anymore. Like, that's just not. But that was actually, keep in mind, Dallas was the #1 television show on network TV before cable was even really standing out. Dallas was seen by, 30 million people on Friday nights? Consistently, 9 o'clock at night? People couldn't help but to watch that damn show in over 100 countries. The show was a juggernaut, a global phenomenon, viral if it were being done today. Think Squid Game times 100. That big, that powerful, that important, that talked about. Dallas was the deal. And so I've been watching that, and I mean, really, it doesn't get old to me. Even the storylines, you would think 40 years later, some of those storylines would be kind of corny and kind of cheesy. Not really. That show still stands the test of time because J.R. Ewing was such a damn villain, man. What a piece of shit. You couldn't help but hate the guy. But, I mean, there was something about, just the bravado of that guy, how evil he was. There's no one that really has that here. I mean, and if anybody does have that plot device to continue to give cliffhangers, let's just put it like this. It's going to be the older veterans that have this in WWE. And really, it's whatever Paul Heyman's involved in. The Bloodline has been great. The Roman Reigns storyline has been fantastic. You really can't go wrong with what they've been doing there. So in SmackDown, we had Shotzi lose her match to Charlotte Flair, which was kind of a waste. When you're bringing a star up, you think, well, this is somebody getting a chance, much like how Bianca Belair might have gotten a chance, and all of a sudden, already takes a loss. First of all, she'd been a tag team wrestler for the most part in her run at NXT, and when she came up to the main roster with Tegan Nox. For whatever reason, that hasn't happened now. So they wanted to try her out as a single star. They put her right to the top with Charlotte Flair. We don't even wait to give the match. We're just going to give it immediately. We're not even waiting until the end of the night. Instant gratification doesn't even mean we're going to wait until next week. It doesn't even mean we're going to have to wait until maybe an hour from now. No, they're giving it away right then and there. The epitome of hot shot booking. And then Drew McIntyre giving the open challenge and Mustafa Ali taking it. Both of these stars, no matter what happened to them in defeat, they were allowed to get their heat back in storyline. For what? Because getting their heat back afterwards doesn't mean much. At the moment, one great example is Karrion Kross, who initially took a loss to Jeff Hardy. They've given him some wins back. He's gotten his heat back, but then he's been gone and not around at all. So I guess he's getting a break right now during the time up the Survivor Series. Plus, he hasn't been using it all when it comes to leading up to any pay-per-views or any significant feuds. So they just sit back there. Bearcat Lee, same thing. Without any constant momentum, they're just not doing it. There's no planned feuds. They're just matches to put matches in as developmental. That's it. They're basically doing what they would be doing in NXT right now. But they're on the main roster. Are they getting much of a push? Or are they getting much of a response? No. Same thing goes for some of the responses out there for other stars. Big E is getting that much of a response. No. Not really. No. Bianca Belair, she give a lot of response? Somewhat. It's getting better. But she should get a lot more. And then you look at what SmackDown does. Okay, their TV feuds. The customary TV feuds that they have that would never make it to pay-per-view. So Happy Corbin, Madcap Moss, Shinsuke Nakamura, Rick Boogs, they're dancing together. That's their dance card with each other. But it will never result, in my opinion, to a point where we're going to get to any kind of a pay-per-view. Because right now, I mean, after Shinsuke Nakamura dropped the crown and only talks about him being the IC champion, well, he hasn't defended it at all. Will there be a point that happens? And then you got Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo coming in as well. So 3 tag teams dancing with each other. But there's no purpose to it. Is it really that interesting? I guess somewhat. I mean, the audience isn't dropping off as a result of this. They're just waiting around. The filler that they're getting right now on SmackDown, right there, between Charlotte Flair and the New Day and the Usos later on the night, is enough filler to get them in 2 hours to get to somewhere. Then after that, you got Naomi and Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler getting a push after she came off of Raw. So they did that enough just to get her over to SmackDown, so she's a little bit significant. But will not be somebody that goes after Charlotte Flair yet. I don't know why not. Why don't you go that route already? Shayna Baszler's ready. She's been ready. She should go after that SmackDown Women's title, unless they're waiting for post Becky Lynch. Unless they're waiting for after Survivor Series. I don't know. They obviously have something going on with Sonya Deville and Naomi. That's good. It's actually been interesting. We know that looks like Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville are both now heel officials for the company. Okay, they're getting that part done. And, you know, they got that set up. Shayna Baszler takes the win on Naomi, but we know that the feud really is Naomi and Sonya. They're building that up. And then New Day against Usos Championship Contenders match. You know, to go back to that tired feud over and over and over, it's good, but we're going back to the recycling bin because they have no other choice. When they go back to Charlotte and Becky, if they're going to finally get to that story back up on Survivor Series, because they kind of stepped that up with the title switch, which was a complete disaster. Just certain things they're doing just don't make any sense, and also they don't care if it makes any sense. It's a lot of apathy and a lot of stubbornness over there. That's what they're doing. And then you look at Raw and Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair. Again, instant gratification. Now, I know they fought 3 other times. The way they introduced the feud at SummerSlam, fine with that. Okay, no problem there. And then Bianca, you know, they built up in the chase. But now, with the match they basically gave a pay-per-view match to start off, and it's done. All right. And that's it. So what happens next? Bianca Belair can't get past Becky Lynch. And was never able to get a win to really build herself back up to earn the shot to go back after Becky Lynch. So she's going to fall back to mid-card. The handling of Bianca Belair after the SummerSlam match has been bad. What I will say has been right was Bianca Belair's promos leading up to this particular match. Because when they set things up last week for this match on Raw, Bianca Belair gave the best promo she had done in her career on the main roster, and I think in NXT in general. It was the best version of Bianca Belair I saw, where it wasn't so much kind of being cute, you know, none of that's there. She was being just steadfast and being straightforward and serious and taking and having the chip on her shoulder. And that's what I want of her. But I also don't want her to go ahead and, you know, have to go and lose the belt like she did. Because right now, I don't know. Yeah, okay. The belt might not have necessarily been on her right off the bat, but I still would have liked her to stay chasing the belt. But I guess now they're not, because Liv Morgan's next on the list. Sure. Deserving? Yeah. Okay. But it's too bad that Bianca Belair now gets stepped out. So what they need to do with her is put her in another proper feud, because she should be getting into strong feuds now going forward. She should be upper mid-card, where she is featured in a feud that will have pay-per-view matches. So if we're going to have a secondary match or third match with the women on any pay-per-view card, Bianca Belair should be in there with said opponent. I don't know who that opponent's going to be, and that's what's, you know, kind of mind-boggling. What are you going to do with her now? Like, you put so much work into Bianca Belair, you just don't just put her off in the mediocrity and just let her stay in mid-card purgatory. She needs to be used into something. There's a lot of value to her. So you moved her from SmackDown to Raw. What happens next? That's what I want to know. Street Profits are kind of irrelevant to me right now. I don't feel like there's much there. So if they decided to go and make a split between Montez and Angel Dawkins as they originally planned, they might as well. But I want to see what they're going to do with Bianca Belair. You just don't put that push and start. Not with her. She doesn't need that. Marketable, bankable, and I think people are coming to see her. And I feel like there's got to be much more being done with her. Because now we're getting the best Bianca Belair we can get. Her promos are getting are much more. They are being tuned. It wasn't anything about how she did before. Okay, as champion, I thought she did pretty well on the promo end. She fights really well, but the company wants to go and make her the strong woman. They want to make her look at the feats of strength, that kind of thing, which I don't think she necessarily needs to do, and really not as much as they want to. They want to make her the female Cesaro, but it shouldn't be that way. And most important, and almost kind of like what a Ricochet is as well. That shouldn't be the way she is. She's not one trick. She's not one dimensional. It's very good in the ring. Very good. Listen, she's right there at the level where I could put Charlotte or Becky or Bayley or Sasha or Paige if you want to bring that back. Like, I really feel that. Or AJ Lee if you want to really go back farther. I could see that. And then we just don't need to see her being held out. I get it. Maybe there's somewhere down the line where the Royal Rumble, she gets another shot at winning the Royal Rumble again to go after another title shot. Why not? Like, they should be booking her to get to that happening again. At the least, that should be the focus is right now. The Royal Rumble will be coming for her. She gets in there and at least gets the Final Four. Like, she should be consistently Final Four if she's in that Royal Rumble match. But the truth is, I'd like to see her chasing the belt still. But they have other plans. They obviously like Austin Theory. There's a lot behind him. The social media gimmick's working. I mean, this is a guy that they were following in Evolve, and we saw him in that Evolve pay-per-view that was shown on the network. I mean, there's obviously the tremendous upside. He's got a lot of upside for him to do well. And it looks like he's molding in very nicely right now, and they're giving him good matches. I mean, they gave him Jeff Hardy, they gave him Rey Mysterio, they're giving him some veterans to work off of to build up on, so that works. So Kevin Owens is being a conduit between Big E and Seth Rollins, which is the next place to go for Big E and Seth Rollins. And after Seth Rollins did such a damn good job with Edge, this is where I think Big E drops the belt. If we're going to get to a point, Seth Rollins is hitting the mark now better than ever. I think the gimmick that he has now, which has been evolving from Monday Night Messiah to now, is there. Like, he is good heel right now, and he's a sociopath. He's almost schizo. I mean, it's just a good character right now. I'm liking where Seth Rollins is right now, and I think this is where Rollins needs to get the most out of Big E, and Big E needs to drop the happy-go-lucky. This guy's got to get pissed. I mean, Big E his buttons need to be pushed by Seth Rollins, much like how it did to Edge. We saw where Edge went and how diabolical he got to be able to get his win and to get his revenge on Seth Rollins. So let's do that for Seth Rollins here, where Seth Rollins conquers Big E, gets that belt. Because Seth Rollins, I think, could do very well as champion right now. It would be very good for the company to hold on to right there. Queen Zelina Carmella, Nikki ASH, Rhea Ripley. So those four are going to now dance together for tag team supremacy in the women's division. It's just filler. We know those tag belts don't mean anything at all. Finn Balor still being put into featured feuds. So maybe Chad Gable is going to be where they're going to be doing now, where they're going to go ahead and face each other, maybe a little more consistent. But I don't think this is something for the pay-per-views. I don't know. But Finn Balor sitting outside, I guess they want to just keep him warmed up, because then what I would think they could do, honestly, is Big E drops the belt to Seth Rollins. You go for future booking. We go back to Finn Balor and Seth Rollins and retell the story of the Universal title and the first time they face each other for said Universal title. Well, now it was Universal title. Now they're going to the WWE Championship, but the story is that initial Universal title feud, that initial match that they had for the Universal title, but now it's over the WWE Championship. That's what it needs to be here. More filler, Dirty Dog, Street Profits. That's what Raw was. And these are the things where there's just, if there was something tangible, something that was going to matter at the end of the day of some of these filler feuds, because you know that Raw has to have more of those than SmackDown does. So they have the women's tag team. They have another tag team with Dirty Dogs and Street Profits facing each other. Before that, it was AJ Styles and Omos, doing what they were doing. Things like that. Something about T-Bar, or Dijakovic, that I think they're going to eventually evolve his character and remove the retribution model off of him, but they don't know what they're going to do with him yet. But to see a feud between Damian Priest and T-Bar, which is what we saw in NXT, also the same guys would have faced each other in the Top Prospect tournament in Ring of Honor several years ago as Punishment Martinez and Donovan Dijak, keep in mind. So these guys have a history with each other. So these guys are dancing partners right now, going back years. They know each other. They work well with each other. They got chemistry. So let's build something more of that. Damian Priest has still been kept strong, U.S. champion. That doesn't have given him too much of contender to work off of, but he's been there. He's been holding the belt. It's a good prop for him right now, and he's been kept pretty strong, and they actually had a really good match, Damian Priest and T-Bar. So you can see some of the things they're doing with that. And Big E beats Kevin Owens in a non-title, and they obviously have their people they're going to bring on. So Charlotte Still's on top with Roman Reigns. The establishment stars are on SmackDown. And then on Raw, you can see a couple named stars they're trying to go and build up with Austin Theory, Damian Priest. They still have a couple of good names that are standouts right now on the Raw side with Finn Balor and Seth Rollins that will hold them up. But they need so much more. It's so light on both shows. But they haven't done anything to build and to bring forward. And you know who's been talking about it? Well, somebody that was around before to tell them most of what was going on when it comes to everything WWE. One of the people that was, we have to admit, was somewhat responsible for the Monday Night Wars and for some of the booking that we really liked in WWE. But I mean, even with Vince Russo and his booking style, what he was doing in the creative at that time under Vince's tutelage, you have to remember that, I mean, at least Vince Russo has probably changed. He has changed his thought process in some of the things he's done. Some of his booking decisions might be a little bit similar based on what he's worked with, but I think he would find ways to continue to evolve. Like, he would not be going Jerry Springer style now. I think he would do things differently. But at the moment, he has been talking. And he was pretty strong on his words now, more than ever before. This is why I think it's time to bring it up. He was on Sportskeeda's Wrestling Legion of Raw with Dr. Chris Featherstone, sharing his issues with Vince McMahon's approach. And he says that Vince McMahon is utterly out of touch with his product. So I will do the Vince Russo voice as I quote Vince Russo. Vince, you need to retire. You need to retire. You are killing this company. Everybody in the company killing the viewers at home. You are killing everything, bro. Nick Khan does not need Vince McMahon there to make all that money. Nick Khan knows the goods. Nick Khan knows what's in the shed. He knows what he can sell. Vince is killing this thing. I promise everybody out there, listen, if you listen to russosbrand.com, I promise you, I will not be podcasting it at 76. You have my word. I will know it's time to hand over the bulldog to the young podcasters. Vince, retire. Retire. You are killing everything. I'm sorry. Wait till you hear about the email exchange. And then he goes on and says, Let's not mention how many times he's got a chair wrapped over his head. Let's not mention that. This isn't a normal 76-year-old man. This is a guy who took chair shots with the best of them, bro. They would never tell a soul, bro. I'm going to tell you something. I got a good glimpse. I'm not convinced that he thinks this stuff is bad. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. And you will understand when I talk about it, when I can freely talk about it. But I don't think he thinks it's bad. So he's promoting something he's doing right now with a special series about Vince versus Vince. And then he explained that McMahon painted himself as a victim when WCW rose to be the top company in the battle for ratings, and reminded that he was the man who put many wrestling territories out of business several years ago to make his company the undisputed leader in the industry. And he accused Vince McMahon of doing the same thing as WCW and was not a fan of the boss playing the victim card in the entire scenario. Well, he says then, well, bro, that's what happened. I really lost a lot of respect for him when this happened. When WCW started kicking our backside, all of a sudden, Vince became the victim. And he played the role of a victim. And about, Ted Turner opening up the checkbook and buying all these guys. And I would watch him. And I was like, bro, did you not put every territory out of business? You did the exact same thing, bro. That is being done to you. You are not the victim. You are guilty of the exact same crime. But that's what he tried to play off, the victim. Poor me. The babyface. No, bro. You put dozens of people out of business doing this. And it is, I've been saying for years, I don't think he's ever going to retire. He's going to die doing this company, running this company. But what he needs to do right now, he absolutely has to be oversight. When it comes to consulting and advising or greenlighting the card that has to be on all these big 8 pay-per-views next year, then do that. But there has to be, he has to finally delegate. It's not going to be by him. He can't do it himself. But someone, if Nick Khan needs to come in, Nick Khan needs to intervene with his team. Vince, you have to trust us on this. Look at what we've done for you. I know how much is invested in this for you because of all the capital, all the time, work, and everything you've done for this company. There's no words to explain how much you've done and how much you've contributed to all of wrestling in general. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the here and now, what needs to happen today to correct the direction. We have to change the trajectory of the company. We have to continue to make money. We're not going to do that if we're kind of running into the same speed bumps we've had before, by falling back into the same habits as before. We can't do that now. You've already made some changes in the habits when it comes to going back to the direction that you feel comfortable with. Well, that's happening now. But now, if you're getting the players that you want on your team, you have to be able to build a winning product. You have to be able to build a batting lineup that's going to be able to go and win World Series time and time again. Baseball analogy. You got to be able to have the right 11 players, the right 22 players on offense and defense, 11 on each side to win Super Bowls. That's the mindset they have to have. They don't have enough bodies. They have skill positions. They have people in particular spots they can marquee, but they don't have enough to fill the whole card. And when they have, they've had to bring people back that have not been active. You don't have enough on the active roster to make that happen. At the level you are bringing it now to where WWE is going to be going in 2022, it has to be a higher level. That's where they have to be. And they're not yet. Now, in terms of Bianca Belair, Vince Russo also made some comments, so I'm going to continue the impression here. The issue with Bianca Belair's character, I haven't read this yet, but I'm going to just go along and see where he says. So now we know about Belair losing to Becky Lynch in the Raw opener. Vince Russo felt the loss highlighted a fundamental problem with her on-screen gimmick. According to Russo, Bianca Belair should not get bogged down due to recent losses as it does not match her persona. Russo called Bianca Belair world class athlete. Well, she is. And argued she didn't need a gimmick in the first place. Russo talked about being a big fan of Serena and Venus Williams and compared Bianca Belair's powerful presence to their iconic tennis players. Yeah. That's pretty good examples. I like that. You could also put her, if I want to consider, if I try to think of names that would have been like those athletes that would have been just standouts, I would go too old. So yeah, Serena Williams would be very good. Good examples. And here's what, in the same interview with Sportskeeda and Dr. Chris Featherstone, Vince Russo said this, quote, "You aren't true to your characters. I'll tell you where it leads Bianca. It's okay for her that she lost and move on. I lost. Becky Lynch is the better wrestler. It's time for me to move on. I'm not saying that's Bianca. That's the way they have written it. This isn't her. Chris, I'm going to ask you as a black man, because I don't know how you feel. This is a world-class athlete." I'm quoting Vince Russo here. "I love watching the Williams sisters, bro, like they are animals. They are beasts. The muscular form and the power and strong women. I would watch them all day long." And then I'm looking at Bianca, and you can see she is a world-class athlete in that same class. And what do we get, bro? We get the housewives of Atlanta talk. I don't know. Chris, does that offend you that it's so stereotypical with the ghetto talk? Now, we could also, in that same last sentence right there from Vince Russo, when it comes to how certain characters might talk on the air, if they have to have a bit of a lingo, they're trying to do that and hold on and try to bring Lash Legend in the same way. Street Profits kind of come off the same way as well. Meanwhile, Big E doesn't come off like that. Neither does the New Day. And Bianca Belair doesn't really give me that kind of feel either, because I think they've kind of taken that out. Bianca Belair still stands natural and true to who she is. I'm talking a lot about her. Listen, if there's somebody right now I would love to be, in the next year or two, be at the level of the horsewomen, I want Bianca Belair there. She absolutely, she has it. She's got the it factor. I think she does, because I'll tell you, if she's on my TV, I'm paying attention. How can you not? She's a specimen of athleticism, of grace, of beauty. She's got it all. She's got everything you need to be a marketable, bankable women's wrestler. Wrestler in general, because she's good. Listen, if you wanted to do the same thing where they've done with Tessa Blanchard or Taya Valkyrie, now Frankie Monet, which unfortunately I don't know why she's not been on NXT or anything else as of late, which sucks. I wish they'd use her. When they've done intergender matches, the same thing with Jordynne Grace. If they're going to do intergender matches, I can see Bianca Belair being able to do intergender matches and match up just as well with the men. Just saying. It's one of those things where I just feel like there's that. Now, one of the things he brings up when it comes to comparing Bianca Belair is how things were worked on when he got the book Jackie, or Jacqueline Moore. You might remember who at one point was managing America's Most Wanted over in TNA, and of course worked very well in WWE. And here's what he says about Jackie. Bro, remember Jackie? Jackie legitimately could take on the men of the roster. Legitimately, she was a bad you-know-what from Texas. And when you saw her body, and when you saw her fight, you believed it. That was the character. That was the gimmick. That this woman could legitimately whoop your you-know-what. I don't remember, but I would not doubt it, because she was legit, bro. That's a good example from the past. And like I said, let's get her worked up. And I'm going to keep talking about her because I like her. When it's hard to go and find a few stars that I feel like really rub off the right way and really just come off likable, and you like their work in the ring and you want to get behind them, like, she's the baby face. She's it. A standout. And there's others in the same way where Bianca Belair right now is at the point where she's already had a little bit of taste of that title. Listen, Rhea Ripley has not felt that at all. She had that belt as well, not felt the thing. So where we are, let's move forward. I mean, Rhea Ripley had a belt, did nothing for her. For Bianca Belair, it did help. But also she was booked well, Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, all the way to SummerSlam. That's a hell of a run, but it shouldn't have stopped. It's not time to stop with her yet. But anyways. Man, there's so much more I got to talk about. I haven't had a chance to get to that yet. But let me just move along real quick. Couple of follow-up stories. Number one, I'll go and bring this up now. Jon Moxley entering an inpatient alcohol treatment program. You know, CM Punk kind of addressed the fact that Moxley was going in for treatment and made some really great remarks. And Moxley also talking about creative in his book, his new book that he had just got put out. So he got that project done before he went in. And Jon Moxley was not going to be any more involved in the world title eliminator tournament. He obviously taking hiatus, taking time to go ahead and help work on himself. And only wish him for the best, him, Renee Paquette, and the rest of his family as they're going through this. Listen, I think Jon Moxley it's good if it's something that he feels like he needs to take care of. God bless him. And I hope that he can, whatever he feels like he needs to do to help bring him back to where he needs to be, where he wants to be for his family, for the good of everything. Let's hope the best for him. And I hope he comes out of it very well. And quick, because he's a strong guy. He's, tough. So in his autobiography, Mox makes it abundantly clear how miserable he was. And we've heard quite a bit about this already when it comes to his interview with Chris Jericho, which made a lot of the rounds once he left. And we didn't know what he was going to be doing prior to AEW at the time. So there's a lot of that going on that we could talk about. And you could just really, I'll put the link in there if you want to go take a look and make the mention of how, he really wanted to just keep working with WWE. He thought it was going to be a lifer, but they just treated him so badly. And CM Punk can definitely relate to that. You can understand where he's coming from. So there's that part to bring up and to talk about that. So I'll leave it there. I just want to make the point of that. What I also want to talk about here, which I need to take a few minutes on, is the latest news following up on last week's episode where I talked about Ring of Honor, a promotion in peril. And now we got more of the story. The rest of the story is being told to us about why Ring of Honor is on hiatus. So Sinclair Broadcasting, or Sinclair Broadcast Group, the parent company Ring of Honor, they issued a press release with their third quarter financial results. They had, as I said, they're a publicly traded company, and they had to announce their third quarter information, their earnings. So they had a conference call. They did a report. According to the financial results, they have $12.530 billion worth of debt. Most of that is due to their streaming service that they've been working on launching, which is under the umbrella of Diamond Sports Group, LLC. That's a lot. And we talked about last week that the company was worth $5.9 billion. Now, they said Chris Ripley, who's Sinclair's president and CEO, made mention in some of the remarks. He says the economy is emerging from the pandemic. Their ad recovery, which they were losing a lot of ad sales as a result from all their different deals, they went ahead and had their issues with that. They have continued to do things where they're now in an international streaming service for the tennis channel in the UK, an ad-supported streaming channel on Samsung TV in India, a bunch of global deals being done. Their national desk news program is now being provided in late evening hours, which I said was going to cost more money them to go and produce more programming to their affiliates. And they had to also enter a bunch of multi-year agreements when it comes to said sports franchises, NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball, with all they were working on there. Now, the other part I want to bring up is the fact of how they're working on the regional sports networks, which literally was the big deal they had right now. So what they're trying to do is create a streaming service for that. They have a streaming service right now for the Sinclair Broadcast affiliate stations. It's just not that good. It's not. So Sinclair was able to renew a bunch of deals for all those regional sports networks for rights fees to carry all the sports programming that they have. So they have to pay to go and get the rights to carry Miami Heat basketball or Detroit Red Wings hockey or whatever. So right now, Sinclair's Bally Sports regional sports networks are home to 42 teams across the NBA, Major League Baseball, and NHL. So besides carrying all these channels and all the advertising they get for it, they still have to pay for the rights fees for all these sports franchises. And one of the things they're trying to work on right now is Bally Sports. When they're talking about Diamond Sports, the Diamond Group that we're just talking about in the press release for the earnings call, well, what they're trying to do is the Bally Sports regional networks. Bally Sports, it's all these different channels that are on across the country covering regional sports. They want to create a streaming service for it. So they're investing money into it right now, which is why they're accruing debt. And they're going to stay on debt right now and work on that streaming service. We learn now that's the reason, really, what's going on when it comes to Ring of Honor, because they got all their money tied up in this. It's a lot of money being tied up in this. So they're working on a bunch of different things right now, including working with Major League Baseball, that for the new direct-to-consumer, over-the-top streaming service to happen, that they need to get more digital rights to all these sports franchises. They wanted to be able to have the rights to stream said games for the regional stations. So Major League Baseball's Commissioner Rob Manfred made that point across and said that Sinclair does not have enough digital rights from enough clubs in order to have a viable direct-to-consumer product. The other rights he's talked about is gambling rights, and they don't have those either. So gambling in terms of being able to go and promote if people want to go ahead and bet on a game, things like that. NBA's Commissioner Adam Silver has also talked about the issues with the regional sports networks, that the cable bundle is broken. And now there's an issue very topical at the moment. These sports networks, Sinclair in particular, they're trying to work with them through these issues because the sports leagues need to be able to get their content on streaming. They need to have a way for if this, whichever sports franchise it is, they want to be able to have a place where they can go and stream their content to everybody via the sports network. So if they have one place you're going to watch, so like if I'm watching the Miami Heat, I know it's on Bally Sports Sun. Well, Bally Sports Sun is going to be part of this Diamond Sports streaming service where Bally Sports Sun will be on with all their sports on there, whether it's the Panthers or it's the Magic or it's the Heat or it's the Florida Gators, whatever it is. They want to be able to have that, or the Lightning or the whatever. You got that working for you. So they got to have that set up, and then they can go and watch all this content and stream it. But they have to have enough to go and put that together. So Sinclair plans to get more teams on board with their new streaming service once their contracts are up for renewal, but they're at the end of the year, and the clock is ticking if they want to reach their goals for 2022. So they got to save money up to go and get the rights fees for digital on all these other sports franchises. And so they have decided, well, we need to go and take some of the money that we've been operating Ring of Honor on and put it towards this. And at some point, I still believe that Ring of Honor is not going to be part of Sinclair Broadcast Group in the near future. I think they're going to unload that. And let's see if they can find a buyer. Because obviously we know that the tape library now is up for sale. But they also want to ask for a big price because they need to go and make money back. So that's a lot to take in right there. Explains a lot of what's going on with Ring of Honor and where things might go. Unfortunate for them. A couple of things I can make mention of. Tony Khan did talk about that. Even though the AEW-Impact Wrestling relationship is closed, their door is still open, so it's still amicable, as we thought. Another story that came up, which was big for WWE and Fox working together, is they're now in the NFT marketplace business. So they're working together with Blockchain Creative Labs to create an NFT marketplace. So WWE will create authentic NFTs or non-fungible tokens, like, digital collectibles, right? That will be part of the company's entire catalog of digital assets, including its most iconic moments, past and present superstars and premier events, such as WrestleMania and SummerSlam. And the launch date will be announced in the next couple of weeks. If you want to take a look at that, You can take a look at that. It's Blockchain Creative Labs was actually a business and a creative studio that was formed by Fox Entertainment and Bento Box Entertainment that put this multi-year agreement together. Okay. Great stuff. One more thing we're going to talk about. It's already coming up to time for AEW to do Full Gear, which they've set up a really damn good pay-per-view coming up on November the 13th. So let's go ahead and go through the card that we know for it right now. We know that for the AEW World Championship, Kenny Omega will defend against Hangman Adam Page. We now have gotten the finals of the World Title Eliminator Tournament done. And so we now know that Bryan Danielson will be taking on Miro, who took the place of Jon Moxley, who beat Orange Cassidy in the finals match to get into this Eliminator final. So in the semis, Miro makes his way through to go and get in here as a replacement, which, I mean, it's a good place to go, Miro being former TNT champion, where the TNT Championship now makes it as the conduit to lead up to the world title. Makes a lot of sense. AEW Women's Championship, they built very well so far. Dr. Britt Baker versus Ty Conti. Using Anna Jay. They've been using, Jimmy Hayter to get working things there, which has been really good. Inner Circle now will take on members of American Top Team, which will include, Junior Dos Santos. I forget who the other person they had picked. And Dan Lambert now is being picked as part of that team. So I got a 3-man team, 3-person team right now from American Top Team that will take on the Inner Circle. We'll figure out who on the other side is going to be going after them. So I guess it's Hager, Jericho, and I'm guessing Guevara. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm guessing those are the guys that will take on this. AEW World Tag Team Championships. Lucha Brothers will take on FTR. Hell of a match. And MJF versus Darby Allin, which has been, what an amazing build for that feud going so far. That's been really wonderful. So AEW's got a lot of good things going on right now. We could talk a lot about what's going on with them, but we'll wait till Full Gear to talk about that. And, of course, remember, that Saturday night, I will be doing a post show for Full Gear right here, WrestlingIsReal.com. You can find it and check it out for yourselves. That's it. Man, we're already done. Hour in. I feel like there's never enough time to get all this packed in, but it's good stuff. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening in. Subscribing to the show as you always do, wherever you find the show. And thank you, all listeners out there where you find us on YouTube. If you do go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/JBRASCO951. All of my content I record every week is there. So I put up on YouTube Monday through Thursdays, 4 days a week. I got my Broadcasters podcast. You can find it online, subscribe it wherever you want. And that's available every Thursday night going into Friday. So after this show on Wednesdays, I do the Broadcasters podcast on Thursdays, a lot of media commentary, stuff like that. And When I'm Not Podcasting series, which I'm now, delegated down to 2 times a week. Mondays and Fridays, you can catch new episodes right there. Quick little snippet episodes of things that are on my mind that I would not go ahead and waste my time on the Wrestling Is Real podcast, just, talking about other things that are not about wrestling. When you're coming to this show, with the good podcaster that I am, I want to make sure I'm talking about wrestling because that's what you're here for. And I appreciate all of you checking out the show as you always do. So thanks for listening and for being with me all this time. I really appreciate it. It's going to be another few weeks before I get to starting my 10th year of this program. 9-year anniversary is coming up in December. It's great. And I'm so motivated. I can't wait to go and do the show on Wednesday nights to go and give it to you every week. So it's great to get prepped, be ready to go, give you an hour. And now we come back next week with another regular show. And we'll get ourselves all prepped up, do preview predictions for Full Gear next week. And Saturday night next week, a post show for Full Gear right here on the Wrestling Is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling Is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.